it's Micah. Welcome to our Monday reaction series where we are looking at every single Billboard Hot 100 #1 hit of each calendar year. In the year 2000, yes, we've made it all the way back to 2000, Faith Hill had the #1 song with Breathe. In some ways, it's hard to believe this has been like 24 years. And in some ways, it does almost seem like a lifetime ago when Faith Hill was one of the biggest pop stars in the U.S. At that point, it seemed as if Faith Hill was on the verge of a Shania Twain sized or a Taylor Swift sized, to project into the future, takeover of the pop charts. But it never really materialized. I mean, Faith Hill has had an outstanding career and had quite a few hits, but other than this one breakout hit, she never really scaled those heights on a consistent basis. But boy, was this a big song. It was more or less in the same tradition as How Do I Live by LeAnn Rimes, which was a monster hit a few years earlier. As a matter of fact, hold on, I don't have it in my notes, but I was thinking that How Do I Live was the #1 song of the year it came out, but it was way up there. It might have been #2, but there was a thing in the 90s and early 2000s with country artists doing these huge, expansive, really popular and pop flavored ballads, this is probably the pinnacle of that trend. So without further ado, let's get into the song Breathe, which I have not heard in a very, very long time. So I'm interested to see how it's going to play to my ears after all this time.
I can feel the magic floating in the air. Being with you gets me that way. I watch the sunlight dance across your face, and I've never been this swept away. All my thoughts just seem to settle on the breeze when I'm lying wrapped up in your arms. The whole world just fades away, and the only thing I hear is the beating of your heart. And I can feel you breathe, it's washing over me. Suddenly I'm melting into you. There's nothing left to prove. Baby, all we need is just to be caught up in the touch, slow and steady rush. Baby, isn't that the way that love's supposed to be? I can feel you breathe. Just breathe. In a way, I know my heart is waking up as all the walls come tumbling down. Closer than I've ever felt before, and I know, and you know, there's no need for words right now. And I can feel you breathe, washing over me, and suddenly I'm melting into you. There's nothing left to prove, baby, all we need is just to be caught up in the touch, the slow and steady rush. And baby, me that way.
Watching this in 2024 with the current Taylor Swift national obsession, it's very difficult to not look at this song through that lens. Like, how is this like Taylor Swift? Did Taylor Swift take any cues from this? And what did she take? What did she not take? You know, compare, contrast. So that's admittedly where my head went with a lot of this. And because Taylor Swift would be at this point in 2000 the future of country music. Her first album came out 6 years later. I think that this song, not to make this about Taylor Swift, because the one thing I do hate is reaction videos where people spend more time talking about someone who's not even in the video. So I'll be brief about this. I think that Taylor Swift really refined the approach that Faith Hill used here. She uses some elements of the sensuality, but not a lot. She more accentuated the lyrical precision and got away from the more obvious epic pop tropes and decided to go a little bit more down the indie sounding route rather than the big bombastic orchestral almost pop feel. And that ended up working really well because it put her in a very particular pocket of relatability that I think maybe was the thing that Faith Hill was missing. So we're going to set that to the side and make this about Faith Hill now. This is a great song. The lyrics are just a little bit generic. It's really about an ode to a lover. There are some nuances and some concepts in there, but really it's just about, I like being with you. That's mostly what you come away with the song feeling. It's a wedding type song. I also did not care particularly for, and this is just me nitpicking, I did not particularly care for the post-chorus swell where she says, just breathe. I think that might be a countryism that was added to the song, but to me it kind of interrupts the lush flow of the song and tries to take it to an even higher plane of meaning, and it doesn't really add that much, but it almost seems, pretentious isn't the right word, but it does seem like it overreaches a little bit. It's already an epic sounding song, and then she just tries to amp it up to this next level. Just to my ear, that sounds like something they could have passed on to keep the integrity of the song. But other than that, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous song. And speaking of gorgeous, it's obvious here that they were going for accentuating Faith's photogenic face and physique, and this was obviously a video that was fixated on how beautiful she was. I could be wrong about this because I don't know about her dance background, but to me this seemed like really an attempt to get her to move and execute choreography when she's not a dancer. It's not native to her to do interpretive dance or any kind of like choreography. Given those constraints, I think she did a great job. But to me, it's not clunky. It just seems kind of, it just doesn't seem quite as in her body as I would like for it to be, for this to be a totally immersive experience. This is a beautifully shot video, and I don't know why I'm taking this opportunity to nitpick. Maybe when it comes to female artists and female pop artists, I tend to like split hairs a lot more. I remember I was maybe hypercritical of Diana Ross's song a few weeks ago. I don't know what that is. Maybe I need to ratchet that back a little bit. But you know, there's no mistaking that this is a beautiful song. Her vocals are very much on point. There's a vulnerability there. But like I said, I think there may be a little lack of relatability because she's so beautiful and the song is so epic. It doesn't really, it's relatable on a very high level, but it's not one of those things that inspires the sort of fanatical fandom that, say, Taylor Swift gets because of the little Easter eggs and the folksiness and the little jabs and jokes and these elements of humanity and pettiness and all these other little things that get sprinkled in there. There's not a lot of personality sprinkled into this song, and I think that may have been an overall issue with Faith's music, in terms of her getting a real foothold where she would have like a really rabid fan base that stayed with her for a very long time. But I guarantee you that there are hundreds of thousands, millions of Faith Hill fans out there who have been steadfast fans from the beginning and will prove me wrong on that. But it's just that from what I see and from what I understand, it was more or less she had her moment, and she definitely was on top for a while. I would almost call her like the country version of Katy Perry, where you couldn't escape her and she was super, super successful, but ultimately there was not enough nooks and crannies really to of interest in who she was as a personality for her to really like establish a solid permanent foothold in the attention of the fickle public, and that could obviously be more our fault and have more to do with our deficiencies than with hers. So this is not necessarily a statement on that. And who knows, maybe she didn't want that for herself. Maybe she had exactly the career she wanted to have. And regardless, only a handful of people have ever had a song as successful as that one was right there. And it was a beautiful song. Next week, we'll be getting into the 90s. Wow. We've covered almost a quarter century going backwards of number one hits, and we're going to keep it moving next week. The number one song of 1999 was Believe by Cher. It's interesting that during this time when Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera were blowing up, that in NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and all that none of them had the actual number one song of the year. But all it takes is one really big tentpole record to shut those people out, to shut out the biggest stars of the day. We're going through the 60s now, and I'm like, where are the Beatles? They showed up for 1 year and then they're gone. So we're going through the 60s on the Tuesday reaction series, and I'm just surprised, why is it not the Beatles each year? It's some random song from the 60s, not obviously not totally random, but the artists on here are sometimes pretty obscure to us today. And that's just the way it works. It just takes one really big record to blow away the more established competition and get that number one spot for the entire year. Anyway, if you like this video, please hit the like button. If you want to subscribe to the channel, you should please do that. That would help me out immensely. And also, please make music better.